Okay, well, that was part one. Hopefully, you've viewed part one. Part two, we continue on. As I was finishing with speaking about Edward Everett, who again became the Massachusetts governor, and Horace Mann, who was instrumental in bringing the mass schooling system to America. You see, these higher ups got their education in Prussia or Germany. And again, they were promoting the state as the father to the children. So in the 1900s, the educational system became compulsory. Laws were implemented for the system to be passed. So by 1900, all the PhDs in the United States of America were trained in Prussia under the Prussian system of using the techniques to dumb down the masses and create obedience and patriotism in the nation state. Very interesting here, as we know that the Rockefellers have a huge influence not only on banking and wars and money printing, but also on education. And this is Reverend Frederick T. Gates, who was the business advisor to John D. Rockefeller Sr. in 1913. He says, "In our dream, we have limitless resources, and the people yield themselves to perfect docility to our molding hand." So again, they want us to be docile. The present educational conventions fade from our minds, and unhampered by tradition, we work our own good will upon the grateful and responsive rural folk. So basically, they're looking at you like livestock. You will be grateful that they feed you and take care of you until they put you in the slaughterhouse. We shall not try to make these people or any of their children into philosophers or men of learning or science. Well, that's obvious. We are not to raise up among them authors or orators, poets or men of letters. We shall not search for embryo great artists, painters, musicians, nor will we cherish even the humbler ambition to raise up from among them lawyers, doctors, preachers, statesmen, of whom we now have ample supply. If you look in the halls of Congress, it's made up of mostly attorneys and lawyers, many of which graduated from the top schools in this country, from Yale to Harvard, etc., Princeton. And again, these are the elites, the upper class, the skull and bones, whether it's George Bush Sr., Jr., Clinton. All these people are the same coin with different faces. So again, the school boards. We used to have school boards in every city and every town that orchestrated the educational process of our children, who are the blank slate, the sponges that soak up information. Well, guess what? Today, there are less and less school boards. In fact, from 1932 to 1960, school boards dropped from 140,000 to 30,000. Today, there's only 15,000, controlled by an extension of the Carnegie Rockefeller Educational Complex through their foundations. Now, if we go down the rabbit hole much further, we can see that psychology entered the mix in the 1960s in America. It was Wilhelm Wundt, 1832 to 1920, who is today widely regarded as the father of this field. He comes to America in the early 1900s, and he comes with 300 trained people who are ready to infiltrate the school system with their psychological mind games. And of course, with psychology comes the big pharma and the drugs. So here's the thing. If you remember the movie The Matrix, there were two pills offered. One was which you could take it and forget everything that you've just learned and go back to sleep and live in the dream and the illusion. The other one is you're going to open up Pandora's box and wake up and come outside the box. It's not going to be easy. You will be ridiculed. You will be challenged. You might even face some serious dangers, but you are free and awake. Which pill are you going to take? And this video is really designed to get you thinking, to get you to turn off the television, which is controlled by MSM, mainstream media, and to start studying the journalism 2.0 on the internet. Start reading documents and books and thinking freely. More importantly, use your creativity and observe the world around you. Ask questions, because when you do this, all the answers will start to come. So the big pharma is part of this complex. The 1950s, in the psychological creation of the Cold War, the providing of funding that we've used to build up our mass industrial military complex, which, by the way, if you don't know this, today the United States spends more money on our military than all the nations on the planet combined. This is overkill. They're wasting our money. Our money is going into create more and more disastrous weapons. We don't need any more weapons. We have enough weapons to destroy the planet many times over. What more can we do? I know they're working on controlling the weather right now so they can do it without firing a shot through HAARP and through geoengineering. And these things, these people believe are going to benefit humanity when all they are doing is poisoning the planet, ourselves, and our children. Along with this is the pharmaceutical complex. And again, we see how much money is made by these big pharma companies who line the pockets of congressmen and senators, and by the way, the FDA, who pushes things through that are detrimental to our health. Oh, by the way, they put in things like saccharin and aspartame in our foods and GMOs. All these things are okay, which are very deadly and have been proven to cause cancer. And then they put our children on drugs so they can't think clearly. And again, they remain docile. They allow fluoride in the water system, which was used in Nazi Germany to create docility in the prisoners of war. And the fact is, folks, we need to wake up to what's going on in this country and has been going on. And the reason it's so hard to wake up is because this has been implemented since the 60s and even well before that. So if you grow up in a cage, and if you grow up around people who tell you you're free in a cage, you believe you're free until you get outside of that cage. And when you look back on that cage, you realize you were never free. And I'm encouraging everybody watching this to begin to dig in, to look at the fact that we are not free. There are 3 documents I'm going to go over here. The first one is the Taxonomy of Educational Objectives. These are the documents that were put together specifically to implement new processes in the public school system, and they were implemented pre-1960s, and they are still intact and utilized today. Number 2 is Designing Education for the Future, and number 3 is Behavioral Teacher Education Project. So let me give you just a direct quote out of the Behavioral Teacher Educational Project, which again is still in effect today in your public school system. It says the impersonal manipulation through schooling of a future America, that's where we are today, in which few will be able to maintain control over their opinions. An America, or an American, which each individual receives at birth a multi-purpose identification number called the Social Security number, which enables employers and other controllers to keep track of their underlings, expose them to direct subliminal influence when necessary. And again, this is chemical experimentation on minors would be a normal procedure in the post-1967 world. This is right directly from that document, which you can look online and read yourself. It goes on to say a small elite would control the important matters, one in which participatory democracy will largely disappear. Children will be made to see through school experiments that their classmates are so irresponsible and inadequate that they must be controlled and regulated for society's good. And folks, we have seen that clearly throughout society today. Our children are being destroyed by those in charge, and those in charge are being controlled by the elites. We must wake up to this. You can find out more by sourcing John Taylor Gatto on YouTube or throughout Google. Lee Rockwell said, "It isn't coincidence that the governments everywhere want to educate our children. Government education is in turn supposed to be evidence of the state's goodness and its concern for our well-being. The real explanation is less flattering. If the government's propaganda can take root in our children as they grow, those kids will be no threat to the state apparatus. They'll fasten the chains around their own ankles and become slaves of choice." Schools run by corporate foundations. Congressional studies have shown that the foundations run the entire school system. It started off with the Rockefeller and Carnegie foundations. Today, the money is in the Gates Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates, and Exxon Foundation. So they are run by foundations. You can look more into this through reading the Reese Commission report, Carol Reese in 1949, and the Walsh Commission report in 1915, where they showed clearly that the foundation of the school system, even though it's considered governmental, is run through the foundations, private foundations, through those, again, elites. You know, after World War II, we went from great readers in this country of America and great inventors, where we had amazing statesmen and people who would create amazing technologies and ideas and patents. Today, that has dropped because of the dumbed-down process. And we see the other countries rising up because they have proper education in many, many parts of the world. However, understand that this process is not just happening in America, but that is our focus. Now, the purpose of education, if you ask anybody on the street today, again, they would tell you it's probably a benevolent system. But here's what it really is. Its purpose of using this Prussian system is to create easy to manage non-thinkers. Obviously, the man or woman who rocks the boat always causes issue in a corporation. They are not easy to manage. I am not easy to manage because I think outside the box. And they don't want that in a corporation. That's why I've owned my own business. That's why I've traded the stock market and invested, because I need to be free to control my destiny. I am not a slave to the corporate pyramid or the governmental structure. I am a free man, and you are a free person as well. I encourage you to understand that what the process is meant to do is to create non-thinkers, to create consumers that make just enough money to buy the stuff and go into debt, because debt is the way the money system works in America. Through the fractional reserve banking system, they want more and more debt, because the only way our economy can survive in America, since it's been unconstitutionalized through the Federal Reserve printing money, is through debt increasing in everybody's home and lives. And that's why we see the bubbles today, in the college bubble, which is borrowing money to go to a university to be trained to be, again, a bigger consumer. And they also encourage in the school systems today to snitch, tell on your neighbors. And the reason they do that is so that as you grow up to be an adult, you will police yourself by telling on all your neighbors, calling the police, calling the IRS, getting a little reward for telling on your neighbors. This is not the community of a free land. This is a police state. This is a tyrannistic state, and this is something we must stand up against if we are to be free again. Otherwise, we will be putting the chains around our own ankles. In the wealth structure, 10% of the people own 70% of the wealth. And what's interesting about this is the 1% have become richer and richer and richer, while the middle class is becoming very poor, because the middle class is moving to India, Asia, where they're highly educated and they will make a lot less money, but for them it's a better lifestyle. And what's very interesting is the 1% own more wealth than the other 9% in that 10% figure, while the masses are left with poverty. And you can look at this on the wealth pyramid. You can search this on your own on Google, but it is something that you should really look at. We are not rats in a cage. We are free-thinking, amazing human beings. And I encourage you to do the resource, to do the work, to stand up for this, to study this, and to share it with other people. Yeah, you're going to take some bullets. And I don't mean bullets literally, but I do mean you're going to take some people calling you a conspiracy theorist. You're going to hear people that don't like what you're saying, that will challenge you. And that's fine, because anybody that's willing to do the work can stand on the merits of this education, of understanding that we got to free ourselves. We are the change we've been waiting for. So I encourage you to do some more work. And here's the answer from what I can see. Number one, take back your power. Not through schooling, not through going to get more and more degrees, which again is a process of teaching that keeps us from free thinking, but instead get education. Read books. Get around people that are philosophy type people that will discuss ideas and use creative thought processes. Get around a group of people that will encourage you. Get advice from non-productive, get advice, sorry. Get active. Take your non-productive time and turn it into productive time, okay? So what I do is when I drive, I don't listen to music. I put on CDs and information that will educate me. And that's how I spent many, many years of my life getting more and more education. I read when I'm in airplanes or in airports. So I'm reading, I'm thinking, I'm listening, and I'm getting information from all kinds of different sources, but I'm not taught the information by some guru or by some teacher with a PhD who is trained to teach a certain way to ensure I don't think. Spread the word. And again, you'll take some heat on it, but that's okay, because if the house is on fire and you wake somebody up, they're not going to be happy when you wake them up. Some might want to go back to sleep, but once they see the fire, they will get up and run and wake others up as well. And it takes some work sometimes, but again, we have to have the back of those that are sleeping when the house is on fire. And again, they might not be wakened early, but eventually they'll be glad you woke them up. So to learn more, here's some information. Separating School and State, How to Liberate Families. You can find out more information and source this by Sheldon Richman. The Chalice and the Blade is a book written by Relaine, I say her name wrong, Eslers. And then How to Read the Book, How to Read a Book by Mortimer J. Alder and Charles Van Doren. And Dumbing Us Down, The Hidden Curriculum of Compulsory Schooling by John Taylor Gatto. Again, John has excellent YouTube interviews and documentaries on YouTube. I encourage you to Google or YouTube John Taylor Gatto. Well, I hope you enjoyed the short video. I hope it did stimulate some ideas, perhaps push you to a place where maybe you'll research this on your own and at least look at your children and your grandchildren to see if you can get them into a proper education instead of a mass schooling, dumbing down process that is going to stunt their growth in life, their enlightenment, and really suppress the knowledge that we are capable of having to change our lives for the betterment of ourselves, our families, and the world at large. This is Vince Dowd with Serene Investor. I really appreciate it. I'd love to hear your comments. Please put feedback below, anything you think I could do better or that you liked. I appreciate it. Have a fantastic day.